Evansdale, Iowa, in the heart of Black Hawk County, holds a story that is eerily all too familiar. On the afternoon of July 13, 2012, 10-year-old Lyric Cook Morrissey and her cousin Elizabeth Collins were abducted while bike riding near a Myers Lake path. Law enforcement were quickly called and began canvassing the neighborhoods surrounding their last known whereabouts. Witnesses quickly came forward and reported seeing the girls head towards the lakeside. Searchers quickly located the girls' bikes and personal items near the lake's edge, with no sign of either girl. Nearly instantly, foul play was suspected, though evidence indicated that the girls were alive when taken. For months, family and law enforcement pleaded with whoever took them to do the right thing and return the girls to their loved ones. This hope, however, was shattered when on December 5, 2012, hunters found the remains of both girls at the Seven Bridges Wildlife Area in a wooded, secluded place. In spite of thousands of tips and a reward growing to more than $75,000, police and members of their families are still baffled by the killer's motives for that day, and how, after nearly a decade, he still avoids capture. Tonight, Crime Dive Investigates will interview Drew Collins, father of Elizabeth Collins. I am Matt Sullivan, and you're watching Crime Dive Investigates, and my partner is up there on the left. Tonight we're speaking with Drew Collins, the father of Elizabeth Collins from the Evansdale case. Welcome to the show there, Drew. Very good to see you, bud.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. So how's it going?
Good.
That's good. It's good. Really good to see you.
Up in northern Iowa.
Yeah.
It's starting to get cold down here, but
yeah, we get some 25-degree weather and stuff at night.
Oh my God, you poor guys.
But we've had some 50 and 60s during the day, which is pretty intense. But yeah, I'm from Canada, so it's really cold up there. We get down into the minus 30s.
Any crap to you?
No, it's similar to the Midwest. It's got that kind of cool, but yeah. So tonight we're going to be discussing the Evansdale case and doing a short interview with Drew.
Drew is the father of Elizabeth Collins, who is one of the girls that was tragically murdered in Evansdale, Iowa in 2012. So I guess we already...
Yeah, and Lyric is my niece.
Yes.
So, yeah.
We're hopefully going to shed some light on this case and raise awareness, get some of these scumbags off the streets, because it seems to be happening everywhere in the country and around the world, that there are these victimizers who are kind of living among us and taking our loved ones and doing these horrible crimes. And up to 40% of these sorts of homicides are unsolved right now, and so it takes a little bit of our work to draw attention to these cases and hopefully be able to raise awareness to stop this from happening to other people.
And like we were talking about before we started recording, it's just it's scary to think that there's A, these type of people that are out there, and B, some of these people that actually act and do these horrible things in a similar way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there.
It's very similar to the Delphi case. A lot of people draw attention to the similarities between the two. Of course, there are other cases as well that carry some similarities, but this one specifically is brought up on a regular basis by a lot of people in the groups. And
and we don't know. It could be somebody that's traveling.
It could be.
We don't know.
It could be, yeah.
You guys have gotten very little information as well, sort of as the Delphi case has also gotten very little information. So Drew's been waiting for 10 years for answers or for some developments to be known. And that's a long time to wait.
It's way too long. So
I agree.
We need our viewers. We need your help. And, Drew needs your help, his family, the families of both girls. We need to find this individual who did this heinous crime, and
anyone with kids, guys, can tell you there's been like a moment where they can't find their kid, and it's
yeah.
I've had it happen before this happened. I had it happen for 2 minutes when we were on vacation in Florida. My daughter we were in the hotel and she wandered off. My daughter Amber, but it's terrifying. But when it goes longer than a minute or two or days, when when your kid's missing and you don't know if they're safe, you don't know if they're being harmed, you don't know if they're being fed, cold, you don't know what's going on with them. It changes you inside.
It would be unbearable to live with.
It's been unbearable.
Yeah.
There's times where, you're minute by minute, sometimes it's day by day, sometimes you have a couple good days, and it just depends what's going on. You just kind of learn to live with it the best you can and try to still move forward and find out at the same time who did this. And bring them to justice. I don't want this, whoever did do this, I don't want them to do it to another family.
Yeah, I agree.
The level of destruction, like, I can't even describe what it's done. Undescribable.
10 years with no evidence and seemingly, no developments that they've told you about is just gotta be something awful. I mean, it's because you don't always necessarily, like we were talking about earlier, think that the worst thing is the thing that's happening.
Yeah. Why do you think law enforcement makes those kind of choices and doesn't really disclose what's going on?
I think they want to keep the case so that somebody don't screw it up.
Yeah.
And I think that's happened so many times that things leaked out and then it's come back and bit them in the ass later. So
yeah, you're
the best
probably
thing for
right.
them is what you got to think about, like, what good does it do them to let other people have information? It really doesn't. So I get that. It just doesn't make it any easier, but I do get it. Because in the past, they tell parents something maybe, and then, people have a hard time keeping this kind of stuff to themselves because you got to tell somebody. So I think that's the main reason, is just they want to control the information. Then later on, if somebody comes forward and says, hey, this little thing that they didn't release,
right,
this person said that nobody should know, that's a great tool for the police. So,
Matt, can I ask you a question as we just take a break?
Sure.
It says end broadcast, but it's on record only.
Don't hit end broadcast.
Okay, but it says it's on record only. It says live in the top. I just want to make sure it's not like live on our channel.
No.
Okay, just making sure. Okay.
It says record only, so it's okay.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
Were you guys, as families, did anyone bring a victim advocate to you guys to be able to talk to?
Yeah, I had a great victim advocate, Karen Gale with the FBI.
Cool.
Good.
And she was amazing. They need to definitely, in cases like this, have a victim advocate.
So you can talk to somebody if you need to, someone who understands what you're going through in some way.
It's such a rare situation.
Yeah.
This lady was great. I played basketball with her some days. I folded laundry with her some days.
That's great.
Just has become a great friend. But yeah, I honestly don't think I would be where I am today without her kind of helping me and guiding me.
That's really good to hear. I was,
Karen Gale is her name with the FBI.
You hear about some other cases and some of the really, really small locales, they don't really have that type of support for victims of this sort of violence. And
they should have victim advocates in every state. I believe the FBI does.
Yeah.
But not every case gets the FBI involved. So
true.
Yeah, you're right.
So let's go back over a little bit about that day. Again, my apologies. So you had said that you were a little upset that the girls had gone on a bike ride, but you didn't immediately think anything was awry or.
Well, at the time, my wife was sick, and her mom would come over almost probably 4 or 5 times a week and help Heather clean or whatever.
Right.
Then she would bring Lyric, and then the girls would play. But Lyric was older. She lived with Wilma. Wilma would let her go for bike rides in Waterloo, but Elizabeth was only 8. We never let her do that. So my first thing when I come home, I'm like, "Where's Elizabeth?" And Wilma was like, "They were on a bike ride," and I'm like, I felt a little upset because I don't just let them go on bike rides by themselves. So usually, if they wanted a bike ride, we'd let them. We either go with them or just watch them ride out front of our house, you know.
Yeah.
But she let them go for a ride.
Well, and it was pretty far away from the house, if you think about it from that point of view. A couple miles.
Well, you know, it's like any kid though too. You give them an inch, they're gonna
exactly
try to push the limits of what they can get away with.
Yeah, I just remember being a kid and like telling my mom I'm going for a bike ride, and if she would have found me, she would have flipped out.
I was always doing things like that.
Oh yeah,
going out and
but
going to the park.
Times.
Yep, I agree.
And so after you knew that they were on a bike ride and they hadn't come home, and you guys were starting to get a little concerned, where were some of the first places you thought to look for them?
There's a few parks close by. There's a few friends close by. I started going to some of her friends and to the parks, and then Heather was doing the same thing. So we just I just figured maybe they went to a friend's and lost track of time.
Yeah,
something
which kids do. You know, it isn't. It doesn't seem, immediately like a big serious issue that's happening there.
This doesn't even seem real, you guys.
Yeah.
Even to this day, it doesn't seem real.
It's terrible. It's a terrible idea.
My kid and my nieces are gonna be taken and murdered. You know, that's nothing you think that ever's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Or you think it and then you just sort of reason it away, like as an intrusive thought, not as something that's a reality.
Yeah. You kind of try to rationalize those thoughts. We do that as human beings, when we're worried about things. We do various things to make ourselves feel better, and sometimes that includes telling ourselves things that might not be logical. And so in those moments, it makes sense to try to push away the horrible thoughts until you're really faced with this truth, right? So it makes sense. Sense.
I mean, I look back now and almost feel dumb. Like I thought they were coming home.
Yeah, that breaks my heart, man.
Yeah. So I know that you'd said that you had started searching around, you looked at some of the houses, and then there was a discovery that was found not too crazy long after you guys first noticed that the girls...
That was around 4:00. You guys found the bikes, you said.
Yeah, I'm not sure what time. Somewhere around there, they found the bikes. That's actually, we were talking earlier, and I was discussing what happens at a city, like a smaller city, when a couple kids go missing. First they send the police out, then they send maybe some of the guys from the fire. They use their resources.
Right.
In a small town like Evansdale, we don't have a ton of resources, so we are lucky. We had a lot of help from, we got DCI involved that night. I think around maybe 1 a.m, the chief of police in Waterloo called me, and we met at the Waterloo Police Department. He called the DCI in. I'm not sure who called the FBI, but by morning we had everyone from park rangers to DOT to fire departments from all over.
Lots of
FBI,
volunteers.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And they went out and looked. And, I don't know how far out they looked, but Seven Bridges is probably a 20-minute drive.
Right.
And it's kind of a remote area.
Yeah, they obviously didn't look every inch. That was another county. It's just out of Black Hawk County into another county.
So Seven Bridges is secluded, but the area that they went missing from, you had said earlier, it was trafficked, but it was almost kind of as you said, like a perfect place to take somebody.
It was kind of shielded.
Yeah. It's got two fences.
Yep.
The lake is on one side. The highway's on the other. It's kind of ravine down, so the people could be driving above and not even notice anything going on down there. If you were down there and you were yelling, no one would hear you because of the traffic.
Right.
It would be a perfect place to take a kid. Back your truck up, or your van, or whatever you got over on Arbutus Street, and just wait for those kids to come through there. And when they do, there's literally nowhere for them to go except for wherever you want them to go.
Yeah.
In the car and straight on the
You could gain control over them very quickly in that spot, and no one would see or hear anything.
And then you're right on the highway.
Well, not on the highway. The highway's there.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have to take another way to get to the highway, but
I see.
It's kind of that wooded area and that trail system. But you said something earlier about finding their items sort of next to the lake. And I had asked you if it appeared that those items were thrown or if they looked like they were placed. And you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, I took a picture of it when I saw it.
Kind of looked like tall grass.
Saw it and was like, "Hey, look at this!" And I looked over there, and it kind of looked familiar. Yeah. And then they went and grabbed it, but I took a picture before they did. None of the vegetation is, if you were to walk through there, it's so high, you would knock over a bunch of stuff. You can see in the picture, nothing is knocked over.
Interesting.
It's just kind of sitting on top of a bush or something.
Right. Yeah, there were some people that theorized that they had potentially been taken out into the water, but that doesn't seem like the case.
Well, one of the things that was supposedly happened is somebody said they saw a paddle boater out there.
Okay.
So one of the things that people came up with was maybe somebody because you could have walked, somebody could have been on a paddle boat and said, "Hey, you guys want to go for a ride?" They leave their bikes there, and somehow they gain control over them in the boat, and then load the boat up and go.
Here's a thought that I'm glad we kind of are going back over some of this stuff, because I remember some things that I wanted to ask you. Do you, just in your opinion, and you might not have an opinion on this, I remember you said that it looked like the purse with the cell phone had been thrown over the side of the fence, but what is your opinion on the bikes? Is it something that they would have done? Do you think that they would have placed their bikes there like that?
I don't know. I can't even remember, to tell you the truth, I can't even remember which ways the bikes were facing.
It said that they were just kind of like rested up against
Propped.
The fence at some point. So it didn't really talk about which way they were facing.
I didn't see them laying against anything. I saw them just on the ground.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's the way I remember it. I mean, it's been 10 years, guys, but
right.
I want to say they were just laying on the ground.
That's interesting because, like, with your memory of that, sort of the way that I've heard people report on it is that it looked like they were resting against the fence. But so that's I didn't know that.
I don't think so.
That's good insight to know.
For sure.
Okay, so
you might ask one of the couple firemen found the bikes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, that was the
I would
question.
take their word over my word because, at that point, I'm in a panic state.
You're just looking for your daughters, or your daughter and her.
I'm
her cousin.
panicking.
Right.
And you had said that there were a lot of people walking around in the area and sort of.
They kind of didn't close it off.
No,
Yeah.
It stayed open all night until the next day.
Yeah, that's
with
pretty.
people out there yelling for the girls.
Right.
they were there. I guess there were people like jumping the fences and walking along the highway, crossing the highway, looking on the other side of the highway. I mean, just people were going everywhere looking for them. There were people out there all night.
Sometimes good intentions can possibly compromise a crime scene, but like we said earlier, it's more likely in a smaller venue that you're going to end up having situations like that where they're just pushed to their limit when it comes to manpower, and they're kind of calling from all these different areas, lots of volunteers that are coming to help. Some of the channels often get crossed, and you end up with that sort of situation where there are people walking on the crime scene and stuff. That's at least what I've noticed.
Honestly, you guys, we had great detectives. The lead detective from the FBI was a bulldog. Our DCI guy, he was scary.
Right.
These guys took charge right away.
That's good.
That's good.
And it was right from the beginning. We really knew who was in charge. The DCI was in charge, but FBI was helping in any way they could. They were really working together. I could tell that just by watching what's going on. They were working together. So, I mean, we had everybody really working together trying to find them, and it just didn't happen.
So you'd say that the initial sort of response you feel like was good.
Absolutely.
It's good.
See, that's good to hear. James.
Yeah, and they threw everything at it. The state threw everything at it. I mean, I can't think of anything that we wanted to do that didn't get done. It's just something didn't connect. We didn't get that.
It's just the nature of these
whatever
things.
It is.
Right.
So when you found the bikes, you said that one of the first things that once, the girls had been missing for a few days and you knew that, something had happened beyond they're lost or they're at a friend's house, was one of the first things they did look in the lake?
Yeah. Well, it's not like they just stopped and only looked in the lake.
Right.
They had a couple people at the lake, and I think they were hitting different people's houses that they thought maybe, I'm sure they went through to see who's living where, and people that they thought maybe could have something to do with it. They were knocking on those doors and going through those houses. So a lot of people were like very upset. Why are they looking in the lake? Well, that wasn't the only thing we were doing.
Right.
That was just one thing. They have to check off those things. Otherwise, later on, if they would have been found, everyone would have been like, why didn't you look in the lake? That was obvious. So they did that simultaneously. They're knocking down doors. They're questioning people. They're doing what they do.
Now they did bring canines in though, and it led into the wooded area that was nearby to this trail system.
Exactly where I was talking about would be the perfect place.
Yeah.
It's a street called Arbutus.
Okay.
And I think whoever it was maybe pulled their car up into the wooded area, maybe opened the back or open one of the doors or whatever they did. And then they could just take the girls and put them right in there, get back on the road and go where they
would have already had it prepared, possibly even.
There's nowhere for them to go.
Right.
It's literally a 6-foot wide patch with a 8-foot tall fence on each side. Where are they going to go? They're just little girls.
No, you're right. You're right.
They're basically trapped. They can scream all they want. They can't really. I mean, where are they going to run to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Towards traffic or towards the lake.
If I could tell you right now, if one of them girls were taken, the other one would not have left the other one. They loved each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
they were like sisters. That's
a beautiful but sad part of this story, and stories like it. A lot of people draw a lot of conclusions about this case in Delphi, but it's the same sort of situation there. The girls did not leave each other's side, and that's a really sad but beautiful part of the world needing to get justice now.
I agree.
So you had said that once they looked in the lake and they weren't there and they brought the dogs out, they knew that you guys were pretty much dealing with an abduction situation. I think
when they bring those FBI dogs in,
yeah,
they had a pretty good idea. Those dogs.
There were things that weren't making sense to them, and that should be one of the first things that I feel law enforcement are doing. I
think once they got to that spot, they just lost the scent.
Yeah.
And I know that Michael Klunder is what you had said before. Was he probably one of the first people they looked into once they knew that there was an abduction thing going on?
Wasn't on the radar.
Was not on the radar.
Was not on the radar at all.
Okay. So
they never questioned him. He was never questioned.
Interesting.
And his best friend, Michael Klunder's best friend, in prison, his girlfriend lived on River Forest Road.
So right nearby that area?
Like maybe 2 football fields away from me. But he wasn't registered there because it was his girlfriend's house. He's a registered sex offender. And not Klunder, but his friend lived here that he went to prison with. And that it didn't, I don't think it came up because he would stay at his girlfriend's house who lived in Evansdale, but he was registered at another house in Waterloo.
I see. Yeah, that doesn't sound very good. But
no. But I don't know. I think he moved to Indiana for a while. He was in Indiana for a while, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, once they knew that it was an abduction, did police say anything that stood out to you at all, or that you remember being, I don't know, something that you just can't shake that stuck with you, or was it pretty much just straightforward?
I went to school with one of the DCI officers, and her name's Holly. Mm-hmm. And I went to where the headquarters, they kind of had a headquarters where they were all set up, and I went there to talk to them, and the people I went to talk to weren't there, but she was there, and I started to talk to her, and she said, because I stopped. I thought they were coming home. And I'm like, how long do you think this is going to last, Holly? When is it going to be over? And Holly said, well, Drew, these things don't end well. This isn't going to end well.
Wow.
That's rough.
That's heartbreaking.
But I mean, there's been a million things like that stand on. That was, I guess, I guess somebody just giving me the hard facts, you know.
She was being a friend, I think, in that moment. Someone who knew who you were, and didn't want to play it up like it wasn't an emergent situation. And I can't imagine having to go through something like that, and that would have been absolutely terrible. So we're really sorry for that.
Thanks. I mean, it's just a lot. There's just always a lot. There's a lot that comes with this, guys. Yeah. And they'll tell you, the people in Indiana will tell you the same. There's a lot. It doesn't miss any of. There's not an aspect of your life that it's not affected.
Yeah.
It's like you're sitting in your house at in the evening one night and a semi drives through your house at 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
What's not screwed up? Everything in the house is screwed up.
Yeah. Interesting way of seeing it, but that is absolutely true.
I've got a bunch of dumb analogies.
I like analogies. I use
Some
those
of them
too.
make sense. Some of them don't make sense. They make sense to me, though.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way with her.
So I'll just go to another question, I guess.
Sure.
So without giving away too much info, in your opinion, do you think this crime points to a single person or multiple people?
Well, I kind of gave you some stuff to kind of look into. That's called the Washington Report on child abductions.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes in there. They can't even do an analysis. Like, they take all this information and compile it from all the child abduction cases from like 69 to 2001.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys take the time to read it.
We've
read
been looking
into it.
into some of that stuff. Yep.
Pretty amazing stuff.
Absolutely.
I don't know if Kate, you agree? Probably it's a lot of information, right?
It's a lot.
Okay. There's not enough information on single persons. That's a one person abducting two people.
Yeah.
It's not happened enough. Michael Klunder was already on that list. He made the list twice. Well, he would have made the list twice if the second girl wouldn't have got away. But he did a double abduction in the 90s or something. I mean, it doesn't happen very much.
It almost has to be an MO of these people.
There's not enough. It hasn't happened enough times for them to do any statistics on it.
Have a whole lot of data.
The lady in that report, Karen Brown, that wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
We traveled to Texas, and I spent a couple days with her. Very nice lady. She says it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it seems very
so rare. It's so rare. It's just, she gave me the point, what it is, and it's like winning the lottery 6 times or something. I don't know.
Well, not even to mention that stranger homicide is incredibly rare.
Yep.
And then double stranger homicide committed by one person.
A single person. I would guess more than one person involved. Statistically speaking, more than one person's involved.
Gotcha. Just because of the rarity of one person double abduction.
Yeah.
It could be done, but it's difficult, and it's a big risk. They want to, and in that article that you read, it talks about time of exposure.
Yep.
They want to keep that time of exposure where they can be caught to a very small, window. So they don't want nobody to see anything. So they want to. It's hard to control 2 kids.
Yeah,
I would say two people at least, maybe 3.
It's interesting with this though, because with these sort of situations, to have more than one person, we know the more people that there are that are involved in a crime, there's always someone that has a tendency to kind of be a little bit more loose-lipped than the other, and they kind of give away their position. So I guess that's something that we're hoping for in a lot of these cases, that whoever's involved. It's the act of the crime that kind of keeps them quiet.
Booze in Evansdale, so
I'm
hoping that somebody talks.
Yeah.
The more that we keep this out there and keep people talking, and like what we talked about before, where only so much information is out there. So we just, somebody says the wrong thing that they shouldn't know. That's great. We want to keep people talking. The more people talk, the better.
Well, we're doing this, so we want everybody that we've sort of gathered to pay attention to the Delphi murders, like however many handful of thousands of people that we have following us, to put the same attention onto your case, because it's just as important, and we just need to get the ball rolling and get people talking, get people speculating. I think
we appreciate it so much, you guys.
of course
That's why we started this group, and that's kind of why we're doing this. We're going to work just as hard as we have for the families of the victims in Delphi, for you, and hopefully we can see some more notice in this, and maybe hopefully even get that reward fund getting up to levels where it's going to get someone to talk or someone to cooperate with the police to hopefully be able to help the case move forward, because a decade is way too long.
And if somebody does know something, or if one of the, however many people, if it is several people, the reward money gets up to a certain amount, then one person that may be like less involved is more likely to talk. So,
or somebody gets pinched for something else.
Yep.
You just never know how it's going to come down.
And God forbid, we don't want them to act again or to do the same thing to someone else. But at the same time, it seems like these victimizers are also victims of, repeating themselves. They, have a tendency to kind of go out there and need to reoffend constantly, despite their attempts to stop their urges. I don't think it's as simple as that.
The attention to these cases is what keeps these guys from reoffending. Because
I don't think somebody goes backwards in what they're doing.
Right.
Like, I don't think somebody goes and kills a couple girls and then the next time lets them go. I think it's a progression for these people, and maybe right now whoever did this is just keeping himself under control. They talk about a cooling off period.
Yep.
Those are all different for every different person. It might the BTK took, I don't know how many years off and then started back up. So maybe this person never stopped. Maybe they stopped.
This could also be someone who's already incarcerated, to be honest. So these kind of situations have a lot of hoops to jump through and a lot of things to figure out. And so I think that can sometimes create some difficulties in the closure of some of these other cases. They get involved in something else and they get pinched and they kind of fall through the cracks. So hopefully that's not what's happening here and in some of these other cases. But
so with that being said, there's a lot of speculation of the potential links between Evansdale and the Delphi murders, and police were pretty quick to say that they believe they were unrelated. And I know the circumstances are very similar, and you had told us earlier that you had waited a little bit of time before reaching out to the families of Abby and Libby. But what, just sort of, freestyle thing, what are your thoughts on the possibility that they actually are related?
Well, I mean, if we got somebody that's traveling and doing this stuff, you look at the way our states are lined up. I mean, they could have just been, it could be someone that lives in Illinois and they come over here. Maybe they want to stay out of their area so they don't want to get caught, being in a different area where you're not known.
That's a very good point.
So you could hit a lot of, say if they lived in that area, Illinois, or in somewhere around in the middle, they could just be going to different, because there's lots of cases with kids missing all over. And maybe they didn't, maybe every time they don't want, maybe they've taken single kids, and it's just not really nobody put together.
Right.
It's just a big mystery. Could they be related? You guys seen the number thing? With the numbers?
It's very, very rare.
It's
that something like this
happens.
Well,
with the numbers, where you take the numbers, did you guys see that?
Yes.
It's just weird.
It's very strange.
The 13th.
Just kind of interchanging the numbers.
The 13th always bothered me because they were taken on Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so it kind of makes me wonder if it's something weird. Like, You know, there's some weird groups out there, people that do weird things together, that
Well,
isn't really talked about, but it's out
Friday
there. There things
Friday
are
the
going on
13th, and then Valentine's Day too.
Yep. And then the numbers, the way they add up, it's just weird. So I mean, at first, yeah, I mean, I thought maybe they are connected, and I did, like I said earlier, I thought your guys' case in Indiana would be solved quick.
Right.
But I'm wrong. I can't believe it's not solved.
Yeah. I think they are having some significant movement in the case when it comes to this Klein fellow that they've recently released about the guy that was running that profile.
Yeah.
I think that is a major break in the case, and I don't think he's the killer. I don't think he's the killer, but I think that this might be closing in on who this suspect really is, and
that's kind of how they do it too. They, you know, to me, they described it as a shelf. You know, they got guys on the shelf, and they like to take those guys off the shelf, and then ultimately that shelf gets really small.
That's the greatest asset.
3 people on there, and
that's
then
a great
they
analogy.
can get it down to 2 people.
Yep. That's law enforcement's greatest asset would be a criminal witness.
And they're patient as heck.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Me and you we ain't patient. They're very patient. Almost to the extreme. You know, I want information now, you know, but they're like very patient. Years.
Yep.
They know these things take years. They don't, and they're okay with it.
They have to. They're. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, well, I was just gonna say there's like a lag. They're the ones that are legally responsible for bringing this guy to justice. We can talk all we want, and we can, speculate and like theorize, but ultimately they're the ones that can't mess up.
And they can't do that. They're actually, their oath that they take going into their job prevents them from being able to speculate the way we can. And so that's, they have inside knowledge, and they can't talk about what they think. They can only disclose what they know. And sometimes that's hard for them to have to deal with. They're human beings, and
I'm sure they speculate together.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
They can't not. They couldn't, especially because they have more information than we do. So
they just keep their speculations to themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which, like what we were talking earlier, it's better for later on. When they go to court, they don't want to have a bunch of crap to go through. They want to have all their shit lined up so they can go in, and there's not a big deal because they screwed the case up, because that's the last thing they want, especially the state. The state does not like to look bad.
Yeah.
They got all this time and money and resources put into this, and then the guy walks on something stupid. They're not going to be happy.
Right. Yeah. They want to be able to pin him.
They want this guy. These guys, all these cops have kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
All these cops that I know that are working this case have kids.
Yep.
They want,
especially after 10 years. It's like they can't screw the pooch after like keeping everything close to the belt for 10 years, because that would be just catastrophic.
Yeah. And then ultimately, they're going to have a lot of mad people.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's some of these cases are facing that scrutiny right now, but they're in different stages of where your investigation is, just because of the years. But
I think another reason that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Drew, but I think another reason they probably were trying to keep information away from the public, i.e. the families too, is I'm sure you have probably thought about if you got information on who did this, doing a number.
Yeah.
I've said stupid things to these cops plenty of times. They're not going to tell me until this person's in handcuffs.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I'm not that way, but
I feel the same way though.
I'm so upset where you say stupid stuff, like if I get my hands on this guy, but in all reality, I don't know if
him
I
getting
if
him
I
getting
could do that.
justice. Him getting justice is the ultimate. That's where you want him to be.
Mhm.
Standing and being judged by his peers.
And I want to know what happened.
Yes.
I want to
Yes.
know why, and how, and what were the mistakes that were made, and then
Mhm.
how can we take and learn something from this
Yep.
and make it better for the next parent? Because this is
Yeah.
just going to keep happening until these people are taken away and we don't let them back in society, which is
Right.
a whole nother topic. I'm not going to get into that. But until we deal with the real root of the problem, we're going to have to deal with this.